Hello, this is Richard S. Chin, reading from my book, Snapshots of My Life, Volume 1, Childhood in San Francisco during the 1950s. My first official residence was a rented, unfurnished attic apartment in a run-down wooden building, home to a thriving colony of cockroaches and ants. What do you expect for $45 per month? Initially, only 3 of us resided at 1164 Jackson Street in apartment number 3. But eventually 5 chins crammed into this one-bedroom afterthought before vacating for more spacious environs. My earliest memories stem from living in these cramped quarters, and they reflect much of what seniors fondly call the normalcy of the Eisenhower era. The Powell-Hyde cable car line climbed up Jackson Street every 10 minutes or so, the driver clanging the bell in a tonal pattern unique to each operator. The sing-song of the metal bell rang out as the famous San Francisco landmark made its way to the crest of the hill on which our apartment building stood. Once accustomed to the sounds, I barely noticed the constant parade of cable cars passing out front. But one city sound dwarfed all others: the bellicose foghorns that heralded the rolling banks of moisture blanketing the city. The deep dual bass notes of the horns rumbled through the damp atmosphere, their long wavelengths easily piercing the thin walls and windows of 1164 Jackson. A person could hear these low notes anywhere in the city, for they needed to be loud to cut through the blinding mists. The need for foghorns made sense back then, since scores of ships traversed the busy waters of San Francisco Bay each week. Entering by the famed Golden Gate Straits meant navigating the rugged Pacific coastline, and the foghorns provided plenty of warning to the wary ship captains. As a child, I loved sitting on the wooden ledge that formed the base of the great bay window in our living room. With this perfect vantage point, I sat transfixed, my eyes taking in the dynamic panorama before me. Facing due east, I possessed an unobstructed view of the East Bay, that is, Oakland, Berkeley, and Alameda, of the Embarcadero, made famous by the movie On the Waterfront with Marlon Brando, and the engineering marvel that is the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge. Back then, the financial district along Montgomery Street presented an impressive view of the forest of buildings housing the bankers and paper pushers of America. Few buildings blocked my view of the bay, for a 20 or 30-story building defined tall in the 1950s. Despite that, the skyline awed me, even though it barely matches what looms today. For me, the expansive bay window acted like a high-definition TV screen showing me the world. The 2 side windows bordering the large central pane were situated at a 45-degree angle relative to the apartment walls and the parallel bay window. These could be opened by rotating the latch and raising the windows that had ropes on either side on pulleys. I was always leery of doing so, since there was nothing to prevent me from falling out those windows onto the concrete path a good 40 to 50 feet below. Because we were so high up, the wind blew with ferocity against those thin windows. I can recall the sound of crashing rain upon those fragile glass panes, and whenever a storm hit the city. And when sleet formed, the pounding ice pebbles scared the heck out of me, as I thought for sure the flimsy panes would shatter. On sunny days, I immersed myself in front of the bay window, marveling at the constant activity of my city. The waterfront was truly vibrant, as the Port of San Francisco reigned as one of the more important and busy venues in the country. The constant stream of ships entering and leaving the great natural harbor brought both goods and people to our shores. The great passenger liners of the 1950s made for a marvelous sight, as the American President Line and the Matson Line made San Francisco a major hub on the West Coast. But it was the massive aircraft carriers of the U.S. Navy that impressed me the most. These colossal oil-powered steam warships stood as the heroes of World War II, which was only a mere decade in the past. Seeing the huge Midway or Forrestal or Bonhomme Richard pass by on its way to the naval shipyard at Hunters Point where Dad worked was a sight to see.